Factories are the engines of modern industry, but behind the machines and production lines lie stories that will send chills down your spine. Today, we're diving into the 5 most terrifying factory deaths ever, real-life tragedies that prove how one small mistake can turn an ordinary workday into absolute horror. Buckle up, this gets dark. It started as just another morning shift at the Bumblebee Foods plant in Santa Fe Springs, California. On October 11, 2012, Jose Milena, a 62-year-old employee who'd worked there for years, clocked in before dawn. He knew the routine like the back of his hand. Load the carts with tuna, slide them into the industrial ovens, seal them tight, and let the massive pressure cookers do their job. These weren't ordinary ovens. Each one stretched over 30 feet long, capable of holding thousands of cans at once. When sealed, the chamber filled with superheated steam, climbing to around 270 to cook the tuna perfectly. It was dangerous equipment, the kind of machinery that demanded strict safety measures and constant awareness. That morning, amid the noise of forklifts, rattling carts, and clanging metal, Jose stepped into the oven to check the carts he'd just loaded. Nobody saw him go in. On a busy floor with dozens of workers moving at once, his absence barely registered. A co-worker, assuming Jose had stepped away to the bathroom, closed the steel door, locked it, and started the cooking cycle. The oven sealed shut with a heavy clang. Steam began to pour through the pipes as the temperature climbed. Inside, Jose was trapped. Once the system was engaged, there was no manual release. It had to complete its full 2-hour cycle before it could be opened again. As the factory continued its routine, stacking pallets, running forklifts, and cycling ovens, no one realized Jose was missing. 2 hours later, when workers opened the oven expecting cooked tuna, they were met with a scene that would haunt them forever. Jose Milena had been inside the entire time. Deputy District Attorney Hoon Chun, a man who had prosecuted over 40 murder cases, later called it the worst circumstances of death I have ever witnessed. He added grimly, "If you had to choose a way to die, you'd rather be shot or stabbed than slowly cooked in an oven." The horrific tragedy sent shockwaves through California and drew the attention of state investigators and federal workplace safety officials. The California Division of Occupational Safety and Health concluded that Bumblebee Foods had failed to properly assess the dangers of working near those industrial ovens and lacked effective safety systems to prevent such a disaster. The company was initially fined $74,000, but that was only the beginning. Years later, after lengthy legal proceedings, Bumblebee Foods agreed to pay $6 million to settle criminal charges, the largest workplace death payout in California history. The settlement included $1.5 million directly to Milena's family, along with additional fines and a promise to overhaul factory safety nationwide. As part of the agreement, Bumblebee was required to upgrade its ovens so workers could never be trapped inside again and to implement new training programs focused on safety awareness. The company's plant operations director, Angel Rodriguez, and former safety manager Sol Flores were also charged. Flores, 42, pleaded guilty to a felony violation of workplace safety laws and received 3 years probation and nearly $19,000 in penalties. Rodriguez, 63, agreed to perform 320 hours of community service, take safety courses, and pay fines totaling around $11,000. In a public statement, Bumblebee said, "We will never forget the unfathomable loss of our colleague, Jose Milena, and we are committed to ensuring employee safety remains our top priority." But for those who knew Jose, no amount of money or corporate promises could erase what happened that morning. How an ordinary shift in a seafood plant turned into one of California's most horrifying industrial accidents, when a man was literally cooked to death in the same oven built to prepare tuna. On February 9, 2019, Daniel Hill, a 54-year-old worker from South Lyon, Michigan, began what should have been another ordinary shift at Michigan Seamless Tube, a steel manufacturing company known for producing heavy-duty metal tubing. That day, Daniel was assigned one of the plant's most dangerous tasks, checking the acid tanks, enormous open vats filled with boiling sulfuric acid, heated to around 160 degrees. The acid solution, maintained at a concentration of roughly 10 to 12%, was used to strip rust and impurities from steel tubes before they were processed further. Daniel was relatively new to this part of the job, and the task required him to walk across a narrow, elevated platform that ran above the tanks. The air was thick with a sharp, chemical mist that burned the eyes, nose, and throat. The metal grating beneath his boots was slick with condensation. Just after 12:20 p.m., something went terribly wrong. Daniel slipped and fell directly into one of the acid vats. Two of his co-workers immediately rushed to the scene, fighting through the fumes to pull him out of the scalding liquid. Within moments, they managed to drag him free, but the damage was already catastrophic. The acid had eaten through his clothing instantly, burning deep into his skin and muscle tissue. Witnesses later said it was one of the most horrifying things they had ever seen. Panicked workers dragged Daniel beneath an emergency safety shower, desperately trying to rinse away the acid as he screamed in unimaginable pain. But the chemical reaction was unstoppable. The acid had already soaked through much of his body, leaving his skin peeling and raw. Despite his agony, Daniel remained conscious as his co-workers tried to help him. When the South Lyon Fire Department arrived, they quickly transported him to the University of Michigan Hospital in Ann Arbor. According to Fire Chief Robert Vogel, Daniel endured some of the worst pain imaginable. Doctors did everything they could, but the acid had penetrated too deeply, burning through his skin, muscle, and tissue from the inside out. For nearly 11 excruciating hours, Daniel clung to life, suffering injuries that covered almost his entire body. At 11:30 that night, he finally succumbed to his wounds. Michigan Seamless Tube later released a statement expressing condolences. A valued Michigan Seamless Tube employee was involved in a serious industrial accident on Saturday afternoon. The employee was taken to the University of Michigan Hospital in Ann Arbor. He did not survive his injuries and passed away at the hospital. The company is conducting a comprehensive investigation and is cooperating fully with the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Investigators from MIOSHA, the Michigan Occupational Safety and Health Administration, later confirmed that Daniel had been checking the acid's concentration when he fell. Their report, chilling in its simplicity, summarized the event in a single sterile line. Employee falls into tank of sulfuric acid and is killed. Months later, state regulators fined Michigan Seamless Tube $2,500 for safety violations. They found that the acid tanks lacked proper guardrails and anti-slip measures, and that workers were not adequately trained for the hazards of working around open vats of acid. Daniel Hill left behind a loving family, children and grandchildren, people whose lives were shattered by one tragic moment. His death was described as slow and agonizing, the result of a preventable accident in a workplace that underestimated its risks. It stands as a grim reminder that in industrial settings, even a single oversight can turn a routine task into a nightmare, and that every safety measure ignored can cost a life. On the night of July 13, 2025, tragedy struck at the Tina's Burritos factory in Vernon, California, a facility known for mass-producing frozen burritos that stock grocery store freezers across the country. It was late, long after the day shift workers had gone home, and the sanitation crew was hard at work, cleaning and prepping the machinery for the next day's production run. Among them was a 19-year-old employee, a member of the overnight cleaning team. He'd only recently started working at the plant and had been assigned to sanitize one of the industrial meat grinders, sometimes referred to as a processing kettle, a massive steel machine roughly the size of a small car, equipped with powerful blades meant to grind meat and beans by the hundreds of pounds. Around 9:30 p.m., while cleaning the machine, something went horribly wrong. According to investigators, the grinder had not been completely powered down, a vital safety procedure known as lockout-tagout, which ensures machines cannot turn on during maintenance or cleaning. As the young worker leaned in to scrub the inside of the equipment, it suddenly roared to life. Within seconds, the routine hum of the factory turned into a scene of chaos. The worker's clothing became caught in the moving mechanism, pulling him forward before he had a chance to react. Co-workers nearby heard his screams for help and rushed to shut down the machine. They slammed the emergency stop button, but the grinder didn't halt in time. When Los Angeles County Fire Department paramedics and Vernon police officers arrived, the young man was already gone. He had been pulled completely into the machine and was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities later described the tragedy as a fatal industrial mishap. In a statement to the press, Tina's Burritos confirmed the devastating incident. "We are heartbroken to confirm that a sanitation worker lost his life on Sunday night, July 13, 2025, while performing sanitation duties at our Vernon facility. He was cleaning an empty kettle that was being sanitized and prepped for the next day's production run. Despite the immediate response of co-workers and emergency personnel, he tragically passed away at the scene." The company added, "This is a devastating loss for everyone at Tina's. Our hearts are with his family, friends, and all who knew and worked alongside him. We are cooperating fully with local authorities and Cal OSHA in the ongoing investigation, and our focus remains on honoring his life, supporting those who are grieving, and maintaining the highest safety standards in our facility." Detectives with the Vernon Police Department and Cal OSHA began a joint investigation to determine how the accident occurred. They confirmed that no foul play was suspected, but emphasized that the machine had not been properly deactivated before cleaning began, a tragic oversight that proved fatal. For the young worker's family, the loss was unbearable. Their son, barely out of high school, had gone to work one summer night hoping to earn a living, and never came home. Co-workers described him as a quiet, hardworking teen who took pride in his job and was always willing to help others. His death left the entire plant shaken. One employee told reporters that his cries for help echoed through the factory, a sound they would never forget. In the end, official reports reduced the unimaginable to a single, cold line. Employee cleaning machine falls into grinder and is killed. Behind those sterile words was the story of a 19-year-old whose life ended in seconds. A young man consumed by a machine built to process food, not people. His death became a haunting reminder that in industrial settings, one missed safety step can mean the difference between life and death. On the morning of February 27, 2013, 26-year-old Jorge Perez began his shift at Golden State Container, a packaging manufacturer in Los Angeles, California. The facility specialized in producing cardboard boxes and shipping materials, and its massive warehouse was dominated by towering industrial printing presses, enormous machines that stamped, cut, and printed designs onto large sheets of cardboard. Each press was a beast of metal in motion, as big as a truck, with heavy rollers and drums that pulled entire sheets of cardboard through at high speed. The air on the factory floor thundered with the constant pounding of machinery, the rhythmic hum of industry that workers had long since learned to tune out. Jorge was no stranger to the work. He had operated near these presses before. He understood their power, but like many who spend years around dangerous machines, the familiarity had dulled the fear. That morning, Jorge was assigned to one of the larger printing presses. It was running as usual, its rollers spinning non-stop, gripping and pressing cardboard with mechanical precision. Sometime during his shift, he stepped too close. In the blink of an eye, his clothing or hand must have caught in the moving rollers, and the machine pulled him in. The steady rhythm of the press suddenly changed. Nearby workers heard the difference immediately. A harsh grinding noise followed by shouts of panic. They turned to see Jorge trapped inside the machine. Co-workers rushed forward, slamming the emergency stop button, but the machine had already clamped down with immense force. Its rollers, designed to crush cardboard flat, now held Jorge's body in their grip. No one on the floor could free him. Within minutes, Los Angeles firefighters arrived and began the painstaking process of dismantling the printing press. The work was delicate and slow. They had to take the machine apart piece by piece to reach him without causing further harm. The rescue effort stretched on for nearly an hour as the crew used tools to pry apart the massive steel components. The factory floor, usually filled with the roar of machinery, was eerily silent. Workers stood at a distance, watching in disbelief as emergency crews fought to reach their co-worker. Some wept, others prayed, but everyone knew the truth. No one could survive what that machine had done. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, firefighters pulled Jorge free, but it was already too late. The rollers had crushed him beyond saving, and the coroner pronounced him dead at the scene. For those who worked alongside him, the shock was unbearable. One moment, Jorge had been performing a routine task, something he'd done countless times before, and the next, he was gone. The incident served as a brutal reminder of the hidden dangers of industrial machinery, where one moment of distraction or one missed precaution can mean the difference between life and death. In official reports, the tragedy was reduced to a few sterile words: employee caught in printing press and killed. But behind that line was the story of Jorge Perez, a young man in his 20s who went to work one morning and never made it home, crushed inside a machine built to shape cardboard, not to take a life. On the morning of June 2, 2022, 39-year-old Stephen Dirks reported for his shift at Caterpillar's foundry in Mapleton, Illinois. He had been on the job just 9 days, still learning the ropes at a facility that produces cast iron engine components for construction and mining equipment, diesel engines, and industrial machinery. The plant's melt floor was dominated by massive open pots of molten iron, each holding thousands of pounds of liquid metal heated to over 2,000 degrees, roughly twice the temperature of volcanic lava. The heat radiating from the pots was intense. Workers on the platform felt it immediately on their faces and arms as they moved across the floor. The metal glowed a deep orange, shimmering like liquid fire, and flowed with a mesmerizing yet deadly fluidity. For most, these conditions were routine, but every step near the edge carried a lethal risk. Stephen's task that morning was a standard one, taking a sample of the molten iron before it was poured into molds. He carried his tools onto the platform and approached the edge of one of the 11-foot deep pots. There were no guardrails or fall protection systems in place, a violation that would later be cited by OSHA. In the heat and focus of performing his job, Stephen slipped, falling into the molten iron. The fall was instantaneous. Co-workers could only watch as he was immediately incinerated by the extreme heat. At temperatures above 2000 degrees, survival was impossible even for a single second. The molten iron swallowed him completely, leaving no time to grab anything or attempt a rescue. Work on the foundry floor stopped immediately. First responders arrived within minutes, but there was nothing to save. The pot had to be left to cool before anyone could approach, a grim reminder of the power of the molten metal. In the aftermath, federal safety investigators from OSHA determined that the foundry routinely exposed employees to unprotected fall hazards, especially those working within just 4 feet of deep ceramic containers of molten iron. The agency concluded that if proper guardrails or restraint systems had been in place, Stephen's life might have been spared. Caterpillar was cited for one willful safety violation and fined $145,27. Stephen's death was not only a catastrophic accident, but a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in industrial work. The plant employs over 800 people. Yet, even a Fortune 500 company with vast resources failed to provide basic fall protection in one of the most hazardous areas of the foundry. Stephen Dirks left behind 3 children, a family forever changed by a tragedy that could have been prevented. His story serves as a chilling warning. In industrial settings, even a routine task performed in a moment of carelessness or oversight can turn instantly fatal. The molten iron he fell into was unforgiving, and the consequences of inadequate safety measures were irreversible.